Just going to give 1 or 2 more minutes and then we'll start our presentation. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to Implementing Drug Pooling Through Technology, and thank you for joining us today. As we go throughout our presentation, we'll be having a question and answer session at the end. Everyone's phone is on mute, so please feel free to type questions into your GoToMeeting session, and we'll answer them as they come in. And any questions we don't get to, we will follow up via email afterwards. My name's Jeff Lindstad. I'm the VP of Clinical Technology with Eclipse. I've been with Eclipse since 2008 and have been working with clinical trials for around 17 years. I've worked with various technologies, including CDMS, EDC, safety, coding systems, and of course, IRT systems. Now I'd like to give my colleague, Mo Lamb, a moment to introduce himself as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Mo Lamb. I'm a senior clinical programmer here at Eclipse. I've got about 15 years of technical experience in EDC, IRT, coding, and safety. In the past I've worked at FaceForward and then Oracle Health Science, and now I'm with Eclipse.
Great, thank you, Mo. So today we're going to be taking a look at what is drug pooling, what is the benefit of drug pooling, learn how IRT systems, drug pooling can consolidate supply lines and cut costs, the types of drug pooling, and some of the things you should expect from an IRT system. In certain cases, sponsors will want to consider drug supply pooling for their larger program level studies. This allows them to consolidate supply lines and cut costs. So what exactly is drug pooling and what does it mean for IRT? Drug pooling is basically the ability to provision drugs between a central depot to multiple protocols. Drug pooling allows IRT management to supply multiple studies from a central drug schedule simultaneously. To do this well, IRT drug management needs to be sophisticated enough to balance supply settings across multiple trials while applying them to a central supply source. Some of the benefits of drug pooling include reduced waste of drug supply, reduced cost of IRT development, more effective provisioning of supplies to sites, and especially sites that have greater demand, and also the flexibility in your resupply strategy. There are many important things to consider when you're contemplating drug pooling. The most important are choosing the right company to handle your clinical supply management or have the proper resources in-house, and an IRT technology partner with the proper experience and IRT system. There are many things to consider when implementing the drug pooling. For example, when setting up an IRT system for drug pooling, there may be some kit types that will not be required for every trial on the pooled supply of drugs. So trial A may have 3 types of drugs where trial B only has 2 types. You need a system that is intelligent enough to figure out which kit types to ignore for which trials and which kit types are going to be more in demand. Also consider that kits may be used by different countries with different import regulations. Some countries may allow supplies to be imported within 90 days of their expiry, while other countries may require supplies to be imported a year or more before their expiry dates. So we really need to have a system that can handle not only multiple countries, but across multiple trials, and with different active drugs and available to each trial. To accommodate this, do not ship, do not count, and do not dispense settings need to be set at the study level and apply to a common batch associated with the pool of supplies. We really need a drug algorithm that will be able to look at all of your studies at a single site and supply the right information to the depot. Drug releases for pooled supplies are also more sophisticated as certain ranges of kits may be released sooner for one study than for others. Therefore, it's really critical to ensure that kits being released are only truly available for the study that the release is related to. It's some of the many complexities like these that make it important to choose an IRT system that's been properly designed to handle drug pooling. So there are three basic types of drug pooling: pooling prior to labeling, pooling at the depot where the kits reside at the depot without any specific protocol number, and the protocol is added when the kits are shipped to the site, and pooling at the sites. In this scenario, the protocol is assigned to the kit as it's dispensed to the subject. Pooling at the site level is very complex and faces many regulatory hurdles. Additionally, there's a lot of different local and regional regulations on this when you start dealing with the countries in Europe and across Asia as well. So site pooling can really be a challenge. Today we're going to do a demonstration in the Eclipse IRT system of pooling at the depot level. Once drug pooling has been implemented, to keep track of all this information that the IRT reporting needs to be able to supply studies that use a drug pooling, needs to be able to support studies that use the drug pooling. It's important to have reports that look at the drug supply not only at the program level, and as well as the study level, and to track the central pool of supplies. Study level reports also need to give details on the kits and their disposition once they have been requested and are associated with the sites and the subjects. Leveraging the reporting of the IRT database in combination with the IRT data transfer to the drug depot is vital to the success of the clinical supplies management team. Here you can see an example of a dashboard provided by the Eclipse IRT system that gives the information at the site and at the study and the depot level. Additionally, we have many reports, web reports, that will dig into this in more detail. And we're going to go ahead and see a brief demo of this, and Mo's going to give a little bit of a more in-depth explanation of these dashboards.
This is a demo of the Eclipse IRT for drug pooling scenarios. The Eclipse IRT has built-in drug pooling capability, allowing a central drug supplies database to provision drug supplies to one or more IRT studies. Building this feature by default allows faster IRT deployments, as drug pooling is typically an extensive customization for most other IRT systems. For this demo, I will be logging into our demo study, Study 106, as an unblinded supplies manager. When the unblinded supplies user logs into the Eclipse IRT, they are presented with a drug supplies dashboard. This dashboard displays various graphs showing important details related to the IRT study. Here on the left is an enrollment chart showing the enrollment information for this particular study by date across all sites. In the middle, we see the depot supplies bar graph, which shows the supplies inventory of the central drug pool for every drug type. This central drug database will be used to provision drug supplies to any IRT studies that are connected to the central drug pool. This bar chart shows all available inventory by drug type, by depot. As you can see, we have 4 depots by region, and each depot has 4 drug types. Finally, on the right, there is the study supplies inventory bar graph of the supplies inventory that is available for every one of our RIT studies. Here we show our particular study, study 106, and again, each study has 4 drug types. Over the course of the study, these charts will reflect changing levels of supply quantities as drug supplies are released to various locations. This includes releasing supplies between depot to various studies, between depot to depot, and between site to sites. For this demonstration, I will be releasing drug supplies from our central drug database to both studies 106 and 107. I will then release drug supplies between depots, so replenishing one depot from another within our central drug database. And then finally, I will release drug supplies between site to site, specifically releasing supplies from a site that has low enrollments to one that has higher enrollments. I'm going to move this dashboard aside and log in again from a different browser so that I can show the before and after. So here I log into our study 106 and as the blind supplies manager. And I will go to the manual release menu, releasing drugs from depot to sites. I will be selecting Depot 101 and then selecting Mass General. Now both of these are marked, both the depot and the sites have been registered to the US only label group. And so I will release drugs for all drug types, and I'll be doing quantity of 25 units for each drug type. Once the release is completed, the screen will give me a confirmation, and an email will be sent out to the depot along with an attachment of the shipment order in PDF format. Okay, so this gives me confirmation that the transaction went through. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and here I'm just going to put these side by side. So we went from our Depot 101, sending 25 quantities of each drug type. So here's the before and here's the after. So you can see that the quantities have gone down by 25 units. And then here's the before picture of our study 106 of the available drug quantity. And after the release, we now see that the drug quantities have gone up by 25 units for all drug types. So again, I'm going to leave this picture here to show the before and after. I'm going to do the same thing, and this time I'm going to release drugs from our Canadian depot, to a different study, to study 107. So I'm going to log out here, and now I'm going to log into my Canadian study, which is study 107. Also logging in as the unblinded supplies manager. Here's the dashboard again. So we go to manual drug orders releasing from depot to sites. So this time I'm going to select my Canadian depot, depot 102, from my central drug pool. And I will pick a Canadian site in this study, a Montreal clinic. And again, we'll be releasing from all drug types. This time I'll do 30 quantities of each. And once the transaction is completed, I'll be seeing the confirmation on this screen. And the email will go out to my depot with the shipment order, with the shipment PDF form as an attachment. So now if I go and refresh my my dashboard, I'll see that my Canadian depot, depot 102, the quantities now have gone down by 25 units for each drug type. And my drug quantity for study 107 have gone up by 25 quantities. So again, I'm going to move this over here for the before and after. So now what I want to do is I'm going to take some of the drugs from this depot in my central database from depot 104, and I'm going to replenish my depot 101. So this time I'm going into the manual order release depot to depot, and I'm going to pick depot 104, which is which has a US as the label group, and I'm going to have my destination depot as depot 101. So both of these are US only, and therefore I can transmit drugs across. Again, for each drug type, I'll go back to doing 25 each. Wait for my confirmation that the transaction has gone through. And again, once the transaction is completed, the emails will go out to the depot with the shipment PDF. Go back to my dashboard, and now I can see that my quantities for depot 4 has come down, while my quantities for depot 101 has gone up. So for each drug type, they've gone up by 25 units. I can also release drugs from one site to another. So here in my enrollment snapshot, in my enrollment chart, I can see that I have one site here. This is the Beth Israel site that has low subject enrollment. So this is a low performing site. As a matter of fact, the enrollment has actually tapered after April. So I'm going to be shutting down this particular site, but I want to transfer the available drugs from that site to my high-performing site here. So I've got a site that is still doing pretty well with subject enrollment. So to do that, I go into my manual orders, and this time I do a site-to-site release. So I am transferring transferring drugs from Beth Israel to St. Jude Hospital, which is the high-performing site. And both are part of the US-only label group. So that allows me to transfer supplies. And I'm going to send everything out from Beth Israel. So 10 quantities of each. And again, the shipment forms will go out to the applicable parties. In summary, we want to demonstrate that the Eclipse IRT is designed and built with drug pooling capabilities from the get-go. This gives you a more flexible IRT system and a faster IRT deployment. The built-in drug pooling capability gives sites and sponsors the flexibility to manage drug supplies from a central drug database and to provision drugs to multiple studies, to release drugs from depot to another depot, and to release drugs from one site to another.
I hope that gave you a small insight. I hope the demonstration gave you a small insight into drug pooling in our IRT system. Today we focused on the manual aspects of drug transfer for demonstration purposes. The Eclipse IRT also features an automated predictive drug algorithm that is fully drug pool conscious. Please feel free to reach out to us if you'd like a more in-depth demonstration. To summarize today, drug pooling offers a very cost-effective way to help us streamline supply chains and clinical trials, reduce waste, and increase flexibility. Drug pooling is a relatively new and hot topic, and as we come across, we face various regulatory hurdles, so it's very important that we work with a proper clinical trial supply management team, as well as the proper technologies to help us move forward in this new technology. It should be a deciding factor in IRT system design when applied at the program level. A system that provides insight is critical. When well-designed reports are in place, the benefits of this method of clinical supply management become clear. This concludes our presentation today, and I would like to open it up to questions, and I'm going to ask Morgan Fowler, our moderator, to come online, as well as Mo Lamb, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And once again, if we don't get to the questions today, we will follow up with an email to you as well. So any questions, please feel free to type them into your GoToMeeting session.
Hi, Jeff and Mo. We've had a few questions come in. One of the first ones was, is your system able to support site-level drug pooling?
Thank you, Morgan. The system, this is part of the IRT design, but right now there's a lot of regulatory hurdles. So although we are able to support implementing site-level drug pooling, we like to review each case separately and determine if it's going to be something that we're able to work with. Once again, we want to make sure that we get the best benefit from the system and we maximize the user experience in this regard. So I'll say we do support it, but we're cautious to make sure it's the proper situation.
Thank you, Jeff. And another question that we had come in, what is the percentage of users using drug pooling?
Right now, as I mentioned during the presentation, drug pooling really is a hot industry topic, but as with many things, people are approaching it rather cautiously. Eclipse has designed our system to support drug pooling out of the box to remove technology as a concern for those looking to move forward drug pooling. But once again, we really see that this is more in its infancy.
Thank you, Jeff. Another question that we had here, is there an extra cost for implementing drug pooling?
Hi, Mo here. No, there is not an extra cost for drug pooling. So drug pooling capability is built in into our RT, so you get that feature by default. You could actually save cost when implementing Eclipse IRT because we would have set up the drugs in a central database. So the drug database would have been set up already, and then all you have to do is just bring your subsequent RT studies online.
Thank you, Mo. We've had another question come in. What factors do you need to consider when releasing your supplies?
Hi, Mo here again. So in the Eclipse IRT, we have things like label groups. So you have to associate, for example, your depots to various label groups. So basically, by region or by country. So as long as your specific entities are set up, so your depots and your sites have the matching label groups, you'll be able to transfer drugs. Another thing to be aware of are the lot setup. So as we load up the drugs into the central drug database, we have the configuration of the lots. So you want to make sure when you transfer drugs back and forth, that drugs have not reached their expiration date, for example. There are also do not ship, do not dispense parameters that you can set. So those are also factors that would guide, whether or not a particular drug unit can be transferred between locations.
Thank you, Mo. Okay, we've had another question would be, can you assign different privileges for reporting to different groups?
Yes, you can. So actually, the Eclipse IRT system is a rights and roles-based system. So we have the ability to set up different rights and roles and accesses to different functionalities of the system itself. Who gets to see what, who's blinded, who's unblinded, who can view subjects versus who can enroll subjects, and who can enter data versus read only, who has access to various depots and to various sites. This also includes the ability to manage reporting rights. So we can choose who has the ability to see blind and unblinded information, and we are also able to limit who is able to view information at the program level. So for example, your main drug supply before it gets associated with a certain protocol. And we can also limit who is able to see cross-study drug information to see, so basically we can keep people from seeing what's going on at different sites as well unless they're at the appropriate level.
And Jeff, we actually had a follow-up question to the one that you just answered. Now, is the dashboard configurable?
Yes, the dashboard that we saw today is configurable by role. So we can have a different dashboard available for every role. We would, in the case of today, the role would be a clinical supplies manager who was overseeing multiple studies. If you were limited to a particular study, you would only have access to information related to your study, or once again, we could configure it per the sponsor's needs.
Thank you, Jeff. Another question that we had come in, how long does it typically take you to set up an IRT deployment?
Mo here. The typical turnaround is 4 weeks.
Thanks, Mo. In just one moment, I have a few more questions to get to. Mo or Jeff, do you know what systems will integrate with this IRT system?
Sure, this is Mo. We have a very robust integration layer. We're able to robust either through file transfer or through web services. And currently we have integration with Oracle Inform.
Great, thank you, Mo. And we had another question come in asking how are the pooled supplies released? And just to add to that, it was also asked, does the quality unit access the IRT directly and update the status themselves? And what happens if not? All the trials that the supplies are pooled against are not all approved at the same time, which is part of how are the pooled supplies released.
So Mo here. Previously I had mentioned that we have specific settings in the IRT, such as for example, the label groups for your depots, as well as for your lots. There are also parameters such as drug statuses, as well as the approval status. So a drug unit is available for transfer if it has been approved, if it's in a status that is, for example, available. So, if something is deemed as undergone temperature excursion or missing or damage, that will prevent that drug unit from being released. So the system looks at the drug statuses, looks at the drug approval flag of that drug, and then it looks at the other parameters such as the label group, the expiration date, and so on. So as long as everything matches, then that drug is available to be transferred. Once a drug has been transferred, the statuses get updated automatically. Right? So for example, a drug that is in a status of available at depot would be picked up by the algorithm to transfer to a protocol or to a site. And once it's been selected to be transferred, the drug status changes. Right? So now it will go from an available status to an in transit status. And then once the drug is received at the destination, whether it's at the depot or the site, you have to confirm that shipment, right? So that again will change the drug status of that drug. So a typical flow would be available at depot, gets marked, gets picked up and sent, and then the status changes to in transit. And then once it's been received at the site, and once the site has performed confirmation, then the status would again change to, for example, available at site. Right? And so once it's in a status of available at site, then that drug is actually available now to be dispensed to a subject or to be picked up and then to be transferred to another site or maybe back to the depot.
Great, thank you, Mo. I'd like to, in respect of everyone's time, we've reached the end of our time limit today. I would like to thank everyone for their attendance and for coming to see our webinar. If we have any questions that we have not reached, that we have not had an opportunity to get to today, we will respond to them by email. If you have any additional questions that that you didn't have a chance to ask today, please feel free to reach out to us. Probably the best way to do that would be either at support@eclipsesol.com or at info@eclipsesol.com, or to your representative that may have reached out to you to provide the webinar invite. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for their time, and on behalf of all of us here at Eclipse, and have a great day. Thank you.